What is going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. Hope you're all doing very well. We're going to talk about Ellie Shaman today. I promised this earlier in the week that I was going to look at an Elemental Shaman build, and I'm very excited about it. Little history lesson here. If you guys haven't been around for a very long time, for the last like 5-6 years, maybe longer, Elemental Shaman has basically had one build, and it's been lightning, lightning, lightning all the way. Somehow, at the end of Shadowlands Season 4, this fire build started to emerge without even the new talent system being in place yet. But people were like really excited about deeply rooted elements proccing and getting all these lava bursts getting thrown at everybody, with Primordial Wave being in the mix. Fast forwarding to Dragonflight Season 1, and everybody's playing the Wildfire build, and I've talked about that in another video, and you go all the way on the right side of the tree, and you get all Magma Chamber and Searing Flames, and you get Skybreakers, and it's really cool. And there's fire everywhere, and finally, it felt like the fire builds had got their time in the sun. And so, of course, my immediate question that I wanted to pose was, it's cool that the fire build works. Is there still a lightning build that works for Elemental Shaman? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, is there a lightning build that works? And I think I've kind of found a combination of talents that I really enjoy, and I think creates a flexible lightning build that also has some frost damage associated with it as well, with Ice Fury. So we're mixing Storm and Frost together to kind of create this amazing build that focuses on cooling down your nature spells, including, you know, Stormkeeper, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then getting massive overloads that get increased by Echo Chamber, and then obviously Mountains Will Fall, making everything potentially overload. So, really, really cool build going on here. Let me explain kind of how it works. First and foremost, you don't ever press fire spells with this build. We basically don't ever press Lava Burst, and we only ever press Flame Shock to like start a single target fight. If you're starting on a boss fight, you want to keep that Flame Shock up. That's why Primordial Wave is there. The only reason I have Primordial Wave is because I want to get to Echo Chamber and Mountains Will Fall, and there's no better way to get there. I don't want to take Ascendance, I don't want to take Deeply Rooted, and I don't want to take Power of the Maelstrom. Power of the Maelstrom is just actually bad, and it's because you're not pressing lightning spells. I don't want to spend a single second pressing a fire spell, and here's why. This build works when you press as many lightning spells as you possibly can because of Flash of Lightning. Casting Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown of your nature spells by 1 second. Well, what are nature spells? Well, I'm glad you asked. Stormkeeper is a nature spell. This is a massive I can't even talk. This is a massive portion of your AoE damage in Mythic Plus. Storm Elemental is a nature spell. You're reducing your major cooldown all the time when you press Lightning Bolt. And in the Storm Elemental window, you get increased speed on your lightning spells. You can just ramp it up and just get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 14 seconds off of your Storm Elemental. You can just kind of go crazy with it. Okay? Nature's Swiftness is a nature spell, which means, and you can spend that on Ellie Blast to get an instant Ellie Blast, which is really, really cool. Ancestral Guidance for some extra healing, and Gust of Wind actually is a nature spell as well. So all of these spells, if I'm casting my Lightning Bolt or my Chain Lightning, that'll reduce the cooldown of those spells, both offensive and defensive. Very, very cool. That's the main crux of this build. Cast lightning spells as much as you possibly can. The second part of this build is about managing 2 buffs. The first buff is from Electrified Shocks. Ice Fury causes your Frost Shocks to cleave. That's great. And each target hit takes 15% increased damage from nature spells for 6 seconds. Chain Lightning will prefer these targets. So the idea with this buff is to manage your Ice Fury procs, because when you cast Ice Fury, you get 4 Frost Shocks that will cleave. This buff lasts for 6 seconds, so you need to spread out your Frost Shocks so that you're getting the maximum amount of uptime on the enemies, so they're taking 15% more damage from your Chain Lightning all the time. That's what you're doing there, okay? That's buff number 1, 15% more damage. Buff number 2 is Elemental Equilibrium, giving us another 15% more damage. And we proc Elemental Equilibrium by pressing Elemental Blast. We're not pressing Lava Burst into Frost Shock, into a lightning spell. We don't care. We're not doing it all like that. We're just going to press Elemental Blast, and it's going to trigger what we want. Okay, it's going to give us Elemental Equilibrium, and then boom, we have 15% more damage, because Elemental Blast counts as all 3 elements, in case you didn't know. Okay? So that's how the build works. Press lightning spells as much as you possibly can. Then you want to cool down everything with Flash of Lightning by doing that. And then you're maintaining 2 buffs. They both give you 15% buffs, damage, sorry. That's going to be Electrified Shocks plus Elemental Equilibrium. Okay, so you're going to have these windows where you're doing 30% more damage, like all the time. And you can make that all happen at the same time when your Storm Elemental is out. And then all of your damage is going to get buffed by, any overloads you get are going to be 15% stronger. And then your big spenders are going to overload as well. One little caveat I want to say here really quickly is that I do have Echoes of the Great Sundering. I was trying to make a build without Echoes of the Great Sundering. But the realistic problem here is that if I take this out, there's no better place to put this. I don't want to put it in Power of the Maelstrom. I don't want Lava Surge. I don't want Echo the Elements. I don't want Searing Flames. I'm only ever really pressing Flame Shock on a single target. And Magma Chamber could be the other choice, but it's not really that good. Compared to 70% more damage after I press Elemental Blast. So, I don't want to play an Echoes of the Great Sundering build, but you kind of have to with this build. And it's very, very easy to do it, actually. The other main reason why it's easy to do is because we're going to take Aftershock. I know. The meta right now is for everybody to take Surge of Power. I understand why people take it. It's primarily because the Lightning Bolt will overload 2 additional times, and that is a very, very good choice. This is something I'm going to mess around with. I've only tried it in 1 dungeon so far, so I'm not entirely convinced by Aftershock, but I think if you're going to run Elemental Blast, the value of Aftershock is insane. It is way too high because Elemental Blast costs 75 Maelstrom. It costs more than Earthquake. Earthquake is 50, right? So it makes it very difficult sometimes to get your damage rolling if you're really stuck behind this wall of not having Maelstrom. Now, this build generates a ton of Maelstrom. I'll show you in a second. But it's just really nice to have the Aftershock, especially to get Echoes of the Great Sundering rolling. You get an Aftershock proc, you immediately throw out Elemental Blast, and then you throw out another Earthquake, and boom, it's doing 70% more damage. So that's how the talents kind of roll out. It's a lightning build that has a sprinkle of Ice Fury in here. You're maintaining your Electrified Shocks buff on the enemies to make them take more damage from your Chain Lightning. You're cooling down all of your abilities with Flash of Lightning, and you're getting the second buff with Elemental Equilibrium, okay? That's how it works. Let's just show it in practice. So basically, you're going to pre-cast Stormkeeper as usual. Then you're going to cast Ice Fury into a Storm Elemental. We do have Greater Storm Elemental, so you're going to need to press his extra ability because it does a shitload of damage. The reason you want to do Ice Fury before Storm Ellie is because Storm Ellie does nature damage. Remember, Electrified Shocks makes them take more nature damage from my spells. This guy's blasting nature damage, so we want to make sure that we have the Frost Shock debuff on the enemies, okay? Here we go. We're going to be cooling all these abilities down. So here we go. We're going to go Stormkeeper into Ice Fury, into Storm Ellie. Okay, and then we go. Oh, I messed up already. That's okay. That's okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'll press his extra ability here. Now, we're spacing out our Frost Shocks to make sure that the buffs are staying on the enemies. See, they have the buff over here, Electrified Shocks. I can get a couple Chain Lightnings in, and then I use another. Here we go. There's an Aftershock proc. Good. We're going to immediately do a Nature's Swiftness into an LE Blast. Then we get another Earthquake out. Really good. Our Chain Lightnings are going pretty quick. Ice Fury's back. Let's cast it to get the Electrified Shocks buff going. You can see we're maintaining 100k here. This is, like, not very difficult to do. I'm in 379 item level gear, by the way. Just in case you're wondering. Oh, look, Stormkeeper's back because we're cooling it down all the time with our Flash of Lightning, okay? So, again, you're not going to always necessarily be able to cash in. Like, you're going to overcap Maelstrom all the time on this build. So, you need to be careful about that. You don't want to overcap. So, if you have to throw out an extra Earthquake, and you're not always cashing in on Echoes of the Great Sundering, don't sweat it. It's not the end of the world. Nobody's going to yell at you, okay? But this is how the build functions, okay? Keep spacing out your Frost Shocks so that your Chain Lightnings are constantly getting their damage in. That's what you want. There's a Nature's Swiftness is back once again. We got an overload on our LE Blaster that was kind of insane damage. You can get these really cool combos. So that's how it works. Lots of lightning damage. And you're subbing in this Frost Shock to give yourself that Electrified Shocks buff. That's really core. The other great thing about the Frost Shocks is that they're instant cast. They give you the ability to move. So you're very mobile, actually, with this build. Look at Lightning Rod damage. It's insane. Lightning Rod's really, really good. Frost Shock's really high. Earthquake damage is huge because we took that 1 point in Echoes of the Great Sundering. And then, of course, Chain Lightning Overload is our #1 damage. because our overloads do the same amount of damage as our regular spells now. If you look at Mastery, it says Lightning Bolt, Ellie Blast, Ice Fury, Lava Burst, Chain Lightning casts have a 27% chance to trigger a second time, dealing 100% of the normal damage. So they just do double damage. Normally they don't do double damage, but we're taking Echo Chamber. So that's how the build works, and it functions extremely well. I actually love it. I think it works quite well in Mythic Plus, actually. I think it's got huge potential in Mythic Plus, and it's something that I'm going to certainly be exploring as I push into some bigger keys on my Shaman. This was just a +6 that I was able to jump into. So I'm doing Stormkeeper into Ice Fury. I've got my Ellie out first. I did a Cap Totem there. I'm not running Echoes of the Great Sundering with this build, so I've modified this a little bit. But you can see, practically speaking, I'm just pressing my Chain Lightnings. I'm spacing out my Frost Shocks. You can see I still have the Frost Shock buffs, and you can see on the enemies they have Electrified Shocks under their characters. So you want to keep the Electrified Shocks buff up there. I just refreshed it. So now I have one more Frost Shock to go at the very end here. So at the very end, I'm going to press that last Frost Shock, and it refreshed all the buffs. This tank was having a tough time getting the enemies that have Sanguine because the Druid pressed his Treants. So the Treants are taunting enemies, keeping them in the Sanguine, which buffs my damage, I think, which is great. But you can press Flame Shock if you need to, like, move. That would be the only time you should press Flame Shock or Primordial Wave. They serve no other purpose, and you're not losing anything by having them like that, so don't worry about it. Here's Ice Fury. Okay, I have Stormkeeper's back. Stormkeeper will be up for every single pack because of Flash of Lightning, reducing the cooldown of everything by 1 second. It's insane, guys. It's absolutely insane. You'll have Stormkeeper up for every pack. It's just crazy. Chain Lightning, Frost Shock. There we go. We're doing lots of damage. This is really good for our item level. Perfectly fine. And again, we're getting the cooldown on our Storm Elemental as well. So we're going to have him back on the boss fight. Not quite at the beginning of the boss fight, but pretty close. We're going to get him up part way through. So here's the single target damage. It's not as good, and this is where you could argue you might want to switch from Aftershock to Surge of Power. Surge of Power is going to give your Lightning Bolts guaranteed double overload, which is really strong. Again, we are running a build that benefits from more overload damage. So I will admit Surge of Power is something I am going to try. I'm going to mess around with it because of all the other ramps that we're doing. Like, because of the Electrified Shocks buff that we're giving ourselves, it seems pretty like a good idea for single target, and certainly this week on Tyrannical, to try and I don't have my Storm Dude bound, to try and lean harder into single target damage by getting those double overloads from Surge of Power. I mean, every single Earthquake that you drop is going to give you Surge of Power. Every single Elemental Blast that you drop is going to give you Surge of Power. So it has value in AoE as well. It makes Chain Lightning hit an additional enemy, which is pretty good. It might be the play. It might be the play. I just think that Aftershock has some incredibly strong value getting that Elemental Blast back. But honestly, we're overcapping Maelstrom like so much, it just might not be worth it, and Surge of Power might be the play. So I will concede that point, and don't go yelling at me in the comments about it, because I just said it right there. Right? That's that boss down. Again, more AoE damage. Stormkeeper's back as always. This is just the way that this works, guys. Stormkeeper is just up on every single pack because you're cooling it down, and Ice Fury is up on every single pack because it just has a low cooldown. So you can, because you're spacing out those Frost Shocks, you're getting ultimate big value. You're just always doing 15% more damage. It's just the way it is. So very, very cool stuff. I love that kind of combo. This is a pretty bad week to be playing Ellie Shaman, I will admit. Sanguine's pretty frustrating. Here's a great example of it right here. He's already moved out of my Earthquake. He's already moved everybody to my Earthquake. I put another Earthquake down. I do have a cast at cursor macro as well for Earthquake. If you guys don't have that, here, my Earthquakes are down. Now he's going to move again. I'm trying to pre-move my Earthquake. Somebody knocks them all back. So then I'm going to place another Earthquake here soon, but they're all dead. It's just like a nightmare. But if you guys don't know, you really should put Earthquake on your cursor and have it as a cast on cursor kind of macro. That way, you don't spend the extra like half second pressing Earthquake and then pressing the floor. It's all just in one motion. You press Earthquake and it goes on the floor. So I didn't have this for a long, long time because I'm just sort of, I don't know. I'm sort of anti. I actually like to be able to see where I'm placing my Earthquake, but what you have to do is just get really good at your target placement where your cursor is going to be and putting the earthquakes down there. You really just have to get good at that, because this is the superior way to run Earthquake, is to have a cast at cursor macro. So really, you should get that. Okay, move forward here. We are pumping some damage. You can see Lightning Rod goes off on multiple enemies when we have multiple Earthquakes down. Really good. Here's my Ice Fury. One cast of Ice Fury into the big Chain Lightning here, fully capping on Maelstrom. Again, we got to be really careful with that. This is tough. Here's another tough situation. He's moving multiple enemies around. I'm trying to get Earthquakes in a good spot, but he just keeps moving. So just be aware of the Earthquake problem this week. It's not going to persist every single week, guys. There will be lots of weeks where enemies can be positioned in one spot and you don't have to keep moving your Earthquakes around. But for now, you kind of do. So a little bit annoying there. Yeah. I don't know actually too much more with what I want to say. There aren't really any giant packs to kill in Halls of Valor, unfortunately. Like, there just isn't really big packs to go after, like Algathar Academy, or even the Azure Vault has like bigger packs you can grab, or Knockhood Offensive would be a great example of like decent pack size. This is kind of like a lot of like 2s and 3s and 4s, maximum amount being 4. So yeah, just a bit annoying with the way that's kind of working. But on single target, you really want to maximize your Nature's swiftness casts into your Elemental Blast, and that's really big, because Elemental Blast has a long cast time. And I messed up here. I'm just getting used to this build once again, so I messed up pretty hard and don't have very good single target damage at all here. It's pretty abysmal. So again, this is where Surge of Power would help you a lot. On the Tyrannical boss fights this week, you might just want to take Surge of Power just for that, because your Lightning Bolts are going to overload twice. Those overloads are guaranteed to do double damage. Like, they're doing 100% of the damage that Lightning Bolt did. They're going to generate more Maelstrom for you. They're going to get 15% more damage because the Frost Shock is on the enemy. There's just so many reasons probably to take Surge of Power. I just don't think you actually necessarily need Aftershock. So that is the big concession I will make with the way that I built this, but this was just my first try. So it's always kind of the way it goes. This is great for us. Look at the damage that just spiked there. We weren't doing any damage. We're kind of spending a bunch of time setting up our damage, and then suddenly it's one Chain Lightning. Boom, 27k into a Frost Shock Chain Lightning. Boom, immediately up to 47k. Like, we were doing 18k, now we're at 43k. So you can see you have to be a little bit patient with Ellie. Get used to all the setup buttons that you have. Things like Ice Fury, things like Stormkeeper. You kind of do need to set those up properly, and don't be annoyed with it. Just kind of work with it. Remember to always press your action button for your elemental. So I get my elemental out. You should bind this to something. Mine's C6, but I just don't have the patience to like click it. So wait till he buffs himself. You can see he put his hands in the air there. One more time. He puts he's channeling underneath here, and then he puts his hand in the air. And boom, his fist goes in the air, and then he's buffed himself, and now you should press his extra action button. Don't do it before he buffs himself, or you'll be very, very sad. Then we go into Ice Fury. And again, we're doing big damage here, mostly because there were a couple adds. So again, we're cheating a bit of damage there, but that's okay. Nobody hates a cheater. It's okay to have a cheater. I get Scent of Blood. Here you want to run away and use Spirit Walker's Grace right here. So I'm going to pop it. Spirit Walker's Grace, and then I start casting. I can cast while running. I should have done this a lot earlier. I did it, you know, it took me a really long time. Then I Gust of Wind back, and I still have my Spirit Walker's Grace going. So that's how you want to make sure you maintain damage on a boss fight as Ellie Shaman. Very important. Okay, we go back here. That was the first wing. Let's go kill Herja. Here's a bit better of a fight. We pulled, I think I butt pulled these guys by accident, but this is a great fight for us. Really good for the Druid, actually. The Druid was having a rough go, but this is what you want, really, for Ellie Shaman. Now, of course, everything has to move, and I'm dying. It's really a disaster, so I can't get all my damage out. But ideally, if you could keep these enemies in, like, one place and the tank had full aggro, then this would look a lot better. But this is a dream scenario for Ellie Shaman. Lots of Chain Lightning value, lots of Earthquake value. Again, I think if you had Surge of Power here, you would get more Chain Lightning targets, so you'd actually be doing more damage as well. And you get the 15% from the Frost Shock, so it would look a lot better. So that wasn't the best showing, but again, Sanguine's really annoying. Sanguine's just hella annoying, man. I'm telling you. Here comes Stormkeeper. We're not doing a lot of damage right now, but here it comes. Stormkeeper into Earthquakes, just flooding the ground with Earthquakes, into another Earthquake. I got so many procs on Aftershock. This is the argument for Aftershock, right? You can go Earthquake into Earthquake into Earthquake sometimes, and then suddenly you have, you know, 150 Maelstrom power worth of damage on the ground, and it feels pretty good. So There are arguments for both sides. That guy got beamed by the shield like an absolute monkey. We had to res him. Here again, here's more single target damage. This is a really rough dungeon in terms of the packs, right? Mini bosses here. So again, Surge of Power, probably better here for the Eye of the Storm. We still did decent damage there, though. Not bad single target. Ellie Blast just hits so freaking hard. But really, you do want to have Surge of Power, I think, for that. So again, before your Ellie Blast hits the enemy, you want to Frost Shock them so that they have the electrified shocks, because Ellie Blast counts as a nature spell. Understand that. Ellie Blast counts as a nature spell, so it benefits from the 15% damage buff that you're giving it, and of course it benefits from elemental equilibrium. So anytime you throw out Ellie Blast and it gets the elemental equilibrium buff, it's doing 30% more damage, so it's pretty strong. Here comes the Hersha fight. Not too much going on here. The other guys were popping off, which was great. Good to see that. I wasn't doing a whole lot of damage. I'm not sure why. I think I was just getting unlucky and not doing my rotation very well. That's probably part of it. Again, what's really cool is if you have Stormkeeper and you take Surge of Power, if you do a Stormkeeper Lightning Bolt after an Elemental Blast, it is guaranteed to overload like 3 or 4 times, I think. It might be 4 times. It's guaranteed to overload at least twice, and then Stormkeeper is going to make it overload again. What does Stormkeeper say here? They overload once. So yeah, they overload once. So you're guaranteed to get 3 overloads if you press Stormkeeper into an Elemental Blast, and then you're going to have the Surge of Power buff. It's going to give you 2, and then your Stormkeeper is going to give you 1. So really, really cool how that works. I'll take a look at that at the end of this dungeon. Don't let me forget. Let's do that in a second. We're going to kill this trash. Not a big deal. Yada, yada. Let's do the last couple boss fights. God King Skovall was kind of whatever. You can kind of plant and just fire, because he ends up switching. He does this rush thing, and then you can get in for the shield, and you're good to go. So here, I just run in here, don't take any damage, and you plant and fire. Once again, you do have the flexibility of Ice Fury, making your Frost Shocks instant cast, which is super cool. And then I have my Ellie out, so I'm just casting Lightning Bolt again and again and again and again and again, and the Lightning Rod keeps... Look at the Lightning Rod keep triggering. It's so cool. That's the other thing, too, about Lightning Rod. I'm going to read it. I'll just read it out for you really quickly. Lightning Rod says, your Earth Shock, Ellie Blast, and Earthquake make your target a Lightning Rod. They're guaranteed to make your target a Lightning Rod. And then Lightning Rods take 20% of all damage that you deal with Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning. So if you do Surge of Power and you do an Ellie Blast, and then you fire off that Lightning Bolt and it overloads 3 times, every one of those overloads will also trigger Lightning Rod. Insane value. Okay? Insane value. Yeah, look at my Lightning Bolt damage there in Ellie Blast. It was crazy. So let's do Odin. Nothing crazy here. I'm just going to skip past Odin, actually. We did okay damage, but again, if I had Surge of Power, it would have been much, much better. So our damage overall was 32k. Let's look at the breakdown. Where's the breakdown? Oh my gosh. Why didn't I definitely looked at it. Give me a second here. Did I look at it right away? Nope, I clicked the chest. Just bear with me here. I thought I did it right away. Anyone want? Nobody wants the cape. Click on your details to go do it. You can do it, man. You can do it. We believe. We believe in you. No? Not possible? GG's? Okay. I don't think it's in my other details. Let's take a look at, is it here? It is here. No, it's not. Wait. Oh, I did other dungeons after that. Oh. I see. I see. Okay, I see what the problem is. Okay, good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take Surge of Power. Let me switch back to the other game. Here we go. Okay, so Surge of Power. And let's take Surge of Power and let's see how it goes. Let me just try and look at the difference here. This, and I'll show you what this looks like. I know we have Master the Elements as well. There's no better way to get to Master the Elements, unfortunately. I wish there was. I wish there was, but there just isn't. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. We got Surge now, which means our Lightning Bolt will trigger twice. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We go Stormkeeper into this, and then we're going to go Ice Fury. Now we're going to get the Ice buff on the enemy, and then we're going to... Oh my god, I messed that up so hard. Whatever. It doesn't even matter. I'm over it. Here comes Ellie Blast into a lightning bolt. Watch how many times it overloads here. Overload, overload, and it's triggering lightning rod. Every time it triggers lightning rod. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely insane. Here we go. Again. Ellie Blast. And then lightning rod, lightning rod, lightning rod, lightning rod, lightning rod damage. It's crazy how much it triggers. Here we go. Go again. And then lightning rod. You want to make sure when you press that spender, you want to try to be pressing your lightning. Okay, Stormkeeper's back. Let's do it right this time. Okay, here we go. Ice Fury into Frost Shock into Ellie Blast. Watch this lightning bolt. Ding, 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 ding. It just hits so many times. Okay. We'll do it again. Here we go. Our Ellie Blast is out. Stormkeeper, watch this lightning bolt. Boom, boom, boom. It only went twice there. Maybe 3 times? I don't know. The point is, it's going to do a lot of extra damage, and you're going to get a lot of extra damage out of it, and I think that it's probably just a better way to go, because it also gives you 1 extra target on Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning affects 5 targets now. Sorry, it affects 5 targets in total. It'll affect 6 with Surge of Power, so it gives you some more AoE damage there. So that's the build, guys. It is all about lightning damage. Let me just run through it one more time. We have Ice Fury giving you this electrified shocks buff. You've got Stormkeeper giving you big lightning damage. You're cooling all your lightning spells down with Flash of Lightning, which is really, really cool. And then you're getting big, big overloads, and you're buffing your overload damage as well. So this is kind of the best way that I can see to set up the talent tree. It's not ideal. Things like Master of the Elements and things like Permanent Wave are not ideal, but I think this is the best way to do it, and I think it still does tons of extra damage. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below for the Storm plus Ice build for Ellie Shaman. I would love to hear what you guys think. Thank you so much again for watching. Love you all. See you in the next